It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Milwaukee Brewers. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Saturday to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium for Game 2 of the three-game series between the Dodgers and the Brewers. Last year, the Brewers beat the Dodgers 5 out of 6, 3 straight here. This year, they split 4 in Milwaukee, and the Dodgers pulled one out last night, 3-2. For the Dodgers, one of the big reasons why they're in first place, the fact that they've been able to beat up on those teams under 500. Case in point, they are now 42-20 with the victory last night against the Brewers, who are in last place, 19.5 games back of St. Louis. The pitching for tonight, Taylor Youngman, another big fella. Jimmy Nelson 6'6" last night, and Youngman is 6'6" himself tonight. He's from Texas, went to the University of Texas, and as a freshman, pitched a complete game victory over LSU in the College World Series. So he has the stuff. He is 3-1. The 3 victories on the road. He's a sinker ball pitcher, and if he's on the game, he'll keep his infielders busy. The Dodgers bring up Brandon Beachy. That makes him the 26th pitcher the Dodgers will have used this year, and we haven't gotten to the All-Star break yet. It's one thing to have a lot of different pitchers when you have a struggling ball club. The Dodgers, doing the best, are 5.5 in front with their 26th pitcher, Beachy, heading for the mound. We'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. To you, wherever you may be, welcome to Dodger Stadium, Game 2 of the 3-game series with Milwaukee. We have seen a lot of players, Dodgers and otherwise, taking the field at the start of a game, but I can't imagine the emotions going through the head, mind, and heart of Brandon Beachy. 23 months go by before he goes running to a major league mound. For Brandon Beachy out of Kokomo, Indiana, he's a big fella, 6'3", 215. He will be 29 the first week in September. And interestingly enough, his very first big league victory came here at Dodger Stadium, April the 19th, 2011. He was with the Atlanta Braves through 6 shutout innings. It was a 1-0 pitcher duel with Hiroki Kuroda. And the Braves then scored 8 runs in the 9th inning, 5 of them against Kenley Jansen, and blew the game wide open. So it's been a long time. Craig Counsell bringing his ball club in here and taking a look at Brandon Beachy. Here is Craig Counsell's lineup. Gerardo Parra leading off in left field. Jonathan LaCroix, the catcher. Brian Braun hits third in right field. Adam Lind at first. Carlos Gomez in center field. Aramis Ramirez at third. Gene Segura had 3 hits in last night's game. He's the shortstop. Scooter Gennett at second base. Taylor Youngman on the mound. So approaching the plate, Gerardo Parra and Brandon Beachy getting ready. He is the oldest of 7 children in the Beachy family, and he was really doing very well before having had 2 Tommy John surgeries. The one in 2012, his earned run average when he went down was 2. So we'll see how Brandon Beachy goes in a somewhat emotional game, certainly for him. Gerardo Parra, the left-hand batter, checks in. Beachy gets a sign, rocks ready, and comes over the top with a fastball high. And the count 1 ball and no strike. Dodgers certainly know Parra very well. He's a good bunter. He has 5 hits. He's had infield hits, 15 of them, as he takes a pitch low, and the count's his way now. 2 balls and no strikes to Gerardo Parra. The veteran, normally the right fielder with Arizona, playing left field for Milwaukee, hitting .304. And Beachy back 2-0 and misses on the outside part of the plate, and the count goes 3-0. Beachy looks in, getting a sign. Now he's ready, and the 3-0 pitch to Parra finds the mark, and the count 3-1. A beautiful evening, temperature 72 degrees. Barely a breeze stirring the flags in center field. Parra, the left-hand hitter, waiting. Beachy back 3-1. There's a line drive, base hit into left center. Over to get it is Peterson, and Parra opens up with a single, and that will bring up the catcher, Jonathan LaCroix.
Catcher number 20, Jonathan LaCroix.
Take a look at the Dodgers defensively. Gonzalez and Kendrick, Rollins and Turner, Ethier, Peterson and Puig, Grandal handling Beachy. So Parra, who was 0 for 4 last night, leads off with a base hit to center. And the catcher, Jonathan LaCroix, coming up. He was 0 for 3 last night with a walk, but he's been a very hot hitter for the last 10 games, hitting .242. Right-hand batter, good catcher, takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Final game of the series, final game before the All-Star break. Kyle Lohse with a record of 5-10. Brett Anderson with a record of 5-5. No balls and 1 strike the count. Beachy set. Parra always a threat to run, and the pitch to LaCroix down and away. Parra has stolen a half a dozen. In fact, he's stolen 6 out of 8. So Parra held on by Gonzalez. Takes a cautious lead. Beachy set. Brandon at the belt. Now the 1-1 pitch on the way. LaCroix looks, and that's a strike. And the count 1-2. Not having seen Brandon Beachy in a long time. Good that he has made it back. Of course, making it back is one thing. Staying here is another. So it's a big challenge for him. Basically, fastball. He has a good cutter. Curveball and a change. Throws to first. Parra back on the bag. A couple of years ago, before the Tommy John surgeries, he brought back the slider he used when he was in college. And what he does, he'll go to the slider if the curveball isn't too effective. Beachy set. Parra off the bag. The 1-2 pitch. LaCroix fouls it away. Normally, when Brandon Beachy is playing, he has great control, low walk rate. But because the stuff he has been so nasty, at least in the past, that the batters foul off a lot of pitches, and foul balls, as you know, take a toll on a pitcher. So 1-2 the count to Jonathan LaCroix. Beachy ready. Parra off the bag. Big lead, and the ball fouled back, though it's still 1-2. Jonathan LaCroix, a standout player, fractured a toe, and of course they had to play a long time without him, and he was sorely missed. LaCroix's hit as many as 18 home runs, knocked in as many as 82 runs batted in. Went to school at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Next one is swung on and fouled away. So there you have it already with the second batter of the game. That note that we gave you about Beachy, usually troubled by foul balls. Of course, LaCroix is a very good hitter, the only catcher in history to have 2 7 RBI games in the same season. Jonathan, 29 years old, and the 1-2 pitch on the way. Beachy instead turns, throws to first. Parra back. LaCroix was a 3rd round pick by Milwaukee out of the university. Lucroy from Florida, from Eustis, Florida. Waiting on deck, Ryan Braun. The 1-2 pitch. LaCroix swings a one-hopper, backhanded by Kendrick. He feeds Rollins, who throws in time for the double play. So LaCroix hits the ball hard, a one-hopper, but Howie Kendrick backhands it and starts the DP. It's a question as to whether Milwaukee will ask for a review on the play at first, so we'll wait and see. They're on the phone. Kendrick on his knees, then feeds Rollins, who hurries it to first. Bang, bang play. Nice play by Kendrick, and then Rollins, a quick whirl and fire. All eyes on the Milwaukee dugout to see if they want to review it or not. Dodgers are kind of standing around waiting, and the phone has been answered. Craig Counsell is still on the railing. He has not given any indication, so it looks like they will not review the call. 4-6-3 double play. 2 down in the first inning, and Ryan Braun coming up. Ryan Braun has been 2 hitters this year, although he's a good hitter no matter where. But on the road, he has 11 home runs, 36 runs batted in, hitting .290. He takes a strike, and the count 0-1. At home, 4 home runs, 11 runs batted in, and he's batting only .250. Oh, and 1 the count. Braun takes down and away. He had been out of the lineup for a little while with a bad wrist. It was questionable as to whether he would play last night, but play he did. Hit third, had 1 hit in the 8th inning, went 1 for 4. Nubs one in front of the plate. Randall picks it up and throws him out. He was going to be out anyway because he didn't stay in the lane. He was running inside the line. So Braun is thrown out 2-3. Nice first inning for Brandon Beachy. Welcome back. And at the end of half an inning, Milwaukee nothing. Dodgers coming up. Randall and Mike Bolsinger as we take a look at the bottom of the first inning and Don Mattingly's lineup. For Don, no dramatic changes. That means that Jock Peterson leads off in center field. Howie Kendrick followed by Justin Turner and Adrian Gonzalez. Yasmani Grandal bats fifth. Yasiel Puig, Andre Ethier returns to the action in left. Jimmy Rollins and Brandon Beachy. Tonight is Juan Uribe bobblehead night, and of course Juan is not here, moved on to Atlanta, but the Dodgers have a big picture of a grinning Juan Uribe in the dugout, perhaps as an added inducement to play a little extra tough. Kike Hernandez sitting in front of it, and here's Jock Peterson, and Taylor Youngman ready and delivers and misses high, ball one. Youngman is 6'6", 215 pounds, out of Temple, Texas. Went to the University of Texas. Flips a good fastball in for a strike, and the count 1-1. He majored in education. As a freshman, he defeated LSU in a complete game as a freshman in the College World Series. So he was a star from the moment he stepped on the Texas campus. Big man ready in the 1-1 pitch, fastball high. There's a flaw if you are a pitching expert. We can give you Peterson's numbers. Last night, 2 for 4, and near home run that turned into a double. Hitting .232, 20 home runs, 40 runs batted in. Slices one foul out of play. 2-2. The thing about Youngman, in the parlance of the trade, he throws across his body. He gets a lot of ground balls, and I assumed he throws a sinker, but they tell me no, what it really is a low cutter. He'll be 26 the middle of December, and the 2-2 pitch is swung on and missed, and down goes Peterson. So one out here in the first inning, and the batter will be Howie Kendrick. For Youngman, he needs a good defense, especially if he's a ground ball hitter. So the alignment, you have Lind, Gannett, Segura, and Ramirez on the infield, Parra, Gomez, and Braun in the outfield, and LaCroix behind the plate. It was pretty interesting to figure out the difference between the two clubs in that tough game last night. Youngman ready, and the first pitch to Kendrick is fouled away. When it got down to push against shove, it was an error that opened up the doors for the Dodgers. And the difference between the two teams, Hernan Perez making the error that opened up the door. Milwaukee has made the most errors, and then Andre Ethier capitalized with the big base hit. Milwaukee has made the most errors, and the Dodgers have made the least. So that's a difference, certainly in one valuable area, why the Dodgers are 5.5 in front, and why the Brewers are 19.5 behind St. Louis. 0-2 the count to Howie Kendrick. Youngman ready, back with a fastball, chopper back to the box. Youngman plenty of time, flips to first. So we have 2 down in the first inning, and Justin Turner coming up. For Youngman, as we mentioned, he keeps the ball on the ground. He does not allow a lot of home runs. He has pitched well, especially with Jonathan LaCroix as his catcher. And maybe he's inspired because he pitches very well against good clubs, clubs that are above 500. His earned run average against good clubs, 1.5. His first 25 pitches in a game, the opposition is hitting 176. And he seems to get tougher as the game goes along. 51 to 100 pitches, the opposition batting only .215. Meanwhile, Turner takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Justin putting up good numbers, 304, hitting .308 against the Brewers, 11 home runs, 38 runs batted in. The strike one pitch is a fastball low at 93. His fastball, a sinker, gets up to 92. His four-seamer gets up around 95. Then he has a great curveball and an improving change. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Youngman turns, 6'6", delivers, and it's swung on and missed, 1-2. that looked like the slider. But what he does, he got rid of what was a slider curve, and now says he throws a curveball. So that's what that was, a tight curve, sharp break. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Youngman turns. Over the top fastball, strike 3 called. So a pretty impressive first inning for the big Texan. He strikes out 2, retired the Dodgers in order, and at the end of an inning, no score. Against Youngman, going back to those 4 years with Brandon pitching for the Braves, you can see his numbers, and you can see that brilliant earned run average of 2 in 2012. But all of that marred by 2 Tommy John surgeries, and 23 months have gone by before he could get to a big league mound, and he's here tonight. Adam Lind, the left-hand hitting first baseman at the plate, and Beachy's first pitch is high, ball 1. Beachy went to, well, he's from Kokomo, Indiana. Adam Lind from Anderson, Indiana. The 1-0 pitch on the way is swung on, popped in the air, off third, down the line. Turner, with some room, reaches up and makes the catch. So Lind fouls out to Turner, and the batter will be Carlos Gomez, who's going to say that Anderson, Indiana, is drilled into the heads of anyone who knows the history of the Dodgers. One of their finest young right-handers, Carl Erskine from Anderson. Wife Betty, son Jimmy. Last we heard, Carl was a vice president of a bank, and he figured to be just that kind of a man. Carlos Gomez checks in at the plate, hitting .274. Multi-talented, takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Gomez, 8 home runs, 36 runs batted in, and he has also stolen 7 bases. The strike 1 pitch, he runs up to bunt, takes one off the plate, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike to Carlos Gomez. Big grin on his face, as if to say, oh, I was only kidding. Gomez, big star for this ball club. Right-hand batter waits, 1-1. Here comes Beachy over the top, throws a curveball in the dirt, and the count 2-1 to Carlos Gomez. Carlos Gomez has some great credentials. He was one of the youngest 3 to hit for a cycle, joining Cesar Cedeno and Alex Rodriguez. He hit for the cycle in 2008 against the White Sox. He holds up on a strike. Interesting for Carlos Gomez, he hit for the cycle in reverse order. home run, triple, double, and then the single. Carlos will be 30 in December, and the 2-2 pitch very high, ball 3. Gomez is 6'4", 210. Beachy's a big man, 6'3", 215. We can tell you in the first inning the Phillies got a run against the Giants. On deck, Aramis Ramirez. Next pitch foul back. Still 3-2. Carlos Gomez last year hit 26 home runs, and the year before 27. He has an upswing a little bit, a tendency to loft the ball. Grew up in a family of 5 in the Dominican Republic, in the capital, Santiago. The next one is off the plate, so Gomez draws a walk. So the 1-out walk, meaning Beachy will now walk out of the stretch to Aramis Ramirez. Ramirez, an all-star third baseman, but the years take its toll. 37 years old. So they took him out of the game. That was unheard of years ago. They took him out of the game in the 7th inning last night, and that's when Hernan Perez made the big error. The first pitch of the right-hand batter in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Aramis Ramirez might be overlooked, might be underrated. But if you look up in the books, home runs by a third baseman, he is 4th behind Schmidt, Beltre, and Jones. That would be Mike Schmidt, Adrian Beltre, and Chipper Jones. And hits for a third baseman, he's got over 2,200. He is 4th behind Wade Boggs, Adrian Beltre. Then you have Aramis Ramirez and Chipper Jones. The next pitch is in the dirt, blocked by Grandal. So 1 ball and 1 strike the count. Carlos Gomez at first. Remember, he has stolen a couple. 7 out of 12, so they'll have to keep an eye on him. Beachy, a long look into Grandal. Now set at the belt. And the 1-1 pitch on the way to Ramirez. Brandon delivers, and he's high and away for ball 2. When you look back at Ramirez, you realize he's hit a ton of home runs. As many as 38, 36, 31, a couple at 27, and so forth. 2 balls, 1 strike. We'll see if they're thinking about hit and run. They're not, and the pitch is outside, ball 3. Now they didn't play on a 2-1 count. We'll see if Counsell plays run and hit on a 3-1 count. The Brewers do not steal bases. They are 15th in stolen bases, and they don't attempt them that much. So if he's going, it's part of a run and hit play. There he goes. 3-1 is high, ball 4. So with 1 out, back-to-back walks to Gomez and Ramirez, and that will bring up Gene Segura, who was a very tough out last night. The shortstop last night, 3 hits, scored a run, and last time up against Jansen, flied to right. So Gene hitting .274. 2 on, 1 out, no score, 2nd inning. Segura, 25 years old. Signed originally by the Angels. Actually played 1 game for the Angels. Had 3 at-bats, went 0 for 3. And the next thing you know, he was with Milwaukee. And even that trade is a story. As Beachy set, looks at the runners. Right-handed delivers, and Segura fouls it away. It was July of 2012. The Milwaukee Brewers traded Zach Greinke to the Angels for Gene Segura. So Segura has been with them since 2012. Last year he fell off. The year before he had a big year, hitting .294. Segura plunks one in the air, starting to slice foul, and it will go back into the crowd out of play. Segura 2 years ago had 12 home runs and 49 runs batted in. That dropped off last year. So trying to bounce back, he has 3 home runs and 24 runs batted in. Thing about Segura, if he gets on base, he can steal a base. He has done that already. Segura has stolen 12 out of 15. He swings, lifts a high pop fly down the right field line. Puig crossing the line, makes the catch. A bluff for the runner at second base, and that's a good play by Gomez, and Puig fires it into Rollins. Naturally, Gomez was not thinking of running, but what he was hoping is to draw Puig into an overthrow, and he just gestured to him. I was hoping he'd throw the ball in the upper deck. Okay, 2 out. Up there, he said, that's where I expected you to throw the ball. 2 out, second inning. And Scooter Gennett coming up. Gennett, the second baseman, last night, 2 for 3, made a couple of good plays with the glove. He's a pest and hitting .357 against the Dodgers. So first and second, 2 out, no score in the ball game. Beachy, a look back at Carlos Gomez, and the pitch to the plate, that's just outside, ball 1, 1-0. Scooter Gennett, better known as Ryan Joseph Gennett, born in Cincinnati, lives in Sarasota, graduated from Sarasota High School. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. Gennett has a look, and that's a strike, and they count 1-1. We told it last night where he got the name Scooter, 4 years old, and he had the bad habit of unbuckling the seatbelt in the family car when they'd go out on a drive. So his mother threatened him, if you keep unbuckling, I'm going to take you to the police department. And he unbuckled, and she took him to the police department. And when the little 4-year-old had to stand in front of the police sergeant behind the desk, he was frightened, but he was also clever enough when the sergeant said, what's your name? Instead of giving Ryan, he said Scooter. But he learned his lesson. 1 ball and 1 strike. Gomez at second, Ramirez at first, 2 out, no score. Here comes Beachy, and it's in the dirt, blocked nicely by Randolph. Remember last night, Dodgers had some troubles, wild pitches with Segura at the plate. Gennett scored on a wild pitch, but the Dodgers survived, pulling it out 3-2. Dodgers are doing exceptionally well against teams that are under 500. They are 42-20 against those poor teams. 1-2 to Gennett with the pitcher Youngman on deck, and time for the moment. Cowboy Joe West behind the plate. When you talk about veteran, Joe fills the bill. He's been an umpire in the league for 37 years out of Asheville, North Carolina. Cowboy Joe, he actually made some recordings of Western music. 2 on, 2 out, second inning. Beachy out of his stretch. And there goes Gomez to third on a little ground ball to second, and Kendrick makes the play. So Carlos Gomez trying to steal third and did a very good job, but Gennett grounds out to end the inning. No runs, no hits, 2 left, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Is 14 and under in attendance tomorrow at 1:10. Dodgers and Brewers. You'll receive a Dodgers Kids hamper presented by Time Warner Cable. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Taylor Youngman getting ready to pitch to Adrian Gonzalez, Yasmani Grandal, and Yasiel Puig. Youngman ready. Adrian showing bunt and takes low, ball one, 1-0. We were talking earlier about how effective Youngman is in his first 25 pitches. He's made only 13. He comes back with a fastball in there. Opposition hitting 176 in the first 25. The toughest areas for him, according to the batting averages of the opposition, come later in the game. Slow breaking ball is swung on and missed, 1 and 2. From 31 to 45, the opposition hitting 313, and then here's the weak spot. 46 pitches to 60, the opposition is hitting 368. Otherwise, he's in command. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Adrian takes a little low. And the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Taylor Youngman, 6'6", 215-pounder. 3 victories, 1 loss, all 3 victories on the road. 2-2 pitch, fastball fouled away. For Youngman, when he gets 2 men out, he comes up with that 3rd out pretty easily. With 2 out in an inning, the opposition is hitting 186. 2-2 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. Youngman delivers us off speed, a slow change, and Gonzalez way out in front of it. Great pitch, and the 3rd strikeout for Youngman. So Adrian way out in front of that slow curveball. Down he goes. Youngman is not a particular strikeout pitcher. Came into the game with 27 and 10 walks. You couldn't convince Gonzalez about that. He has 3 strikeouts, 3 of the 4 outs. Now the batter is Grandal, and he takes inside, ball 1, 1-0. Well, for Gonzalez to strike out, by the way, it's a welcome to the club, Adrian, because the cleanup hitters against Youngman this year, they are 1 for 14. That's a .067 batting average. And by the way, no runs batted in. Taylor ready. And the 1-0 pitch on the way. A little pop fly, shallow center, trouble. It will drop. Picked up by Segura to get it back in. So Grandal, little pop fly single. And with 1 out, the batter will be Yasiel Puig. When Carlos Gomez was at second base on a fly ball to right field, Gomez tried to draw Puig into an overthrow, and Gomez reminds him again, I was hoping you'd throw the ball up in the upper deck. And Puig, I don't think, was too happy about it. Gomez was having a lot of fun. Puig was something to him in his best Spanish or Cuban. And life goes on. So Gomez has had his fun. Puig at the plate, and the first pitch to Yasiel is low, ball 1, 1-0. Puig last night 0 for 3, struck out twice, walked, did have a stolen base. Yasiel hitting .295 at home. Youngman ready. Taylor's fastball is low, and he's behind now, 2 balls and no strikes. Last start for Youngman, he defeated the Reds, allowing just 1 run in 8 innings. Sunset time in Los Angeles. The mountains etched clearly out there in center field. 2-0 coming up. Right-hander ready and deals, and it is swung on and missed. Good fastball down and in. 2-1. Puig back in after checking with Lorenzo Bundy. Grandal short lead at first. A 2-1 count, but you don't have the hitters to use it. You have a free swinger in Puig and a slow runner in Grandal. And the pitch to Puig is foul back, and the count 2-2. One thing about Youngman, if you are not in an attacking mode, if you take the first pitch, doesn't make any difference whether you swing or not, but if you take it, the hitters are batting 191. So you have to go after him and consistently apply the pressure. Boy, that must have been something to be a freshman at the University of Texas, pitch a complete game victory over LSU in the College World Series. 2-2 pitch, fastball low, ball 3. So he was a star as soon as he got on the campus. He won 11 games and then won that big game in the College World Series. Got a lot of money, about $2.5 million to sign as Andre Ethier waits. So Milwaukee, naturally, he was a first-round pick. 3-2, Grandal with 1 out goes, and the pitch is a little flare to center. Gomez will make the catch. He's got a play at first, a one-hopper for the double play. And the throw by Gomez right on the button. So the Dodgers running Grandal, and they pay the price. Gomez nails his man. No runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. Gomez under a full head of steam, and he really zeroed in. He almost knocked Lynn over. Lynn caught the ball, and down he went. Grandal out, doubled up at first, took a little time to get back and put on the gear, and now we're ready. Taylor Youngman, the pitcher for Milwaukee, will be coming up. He'll be followed by Gerardo Parra and then Jonathan LaCroix. Youngman 1 for 9. He and Grandal having something to laugh about, no doubt. Yasmani going and being doubled up. 6'6", he gives you a nice strike zone, and he promptly slices one foul down the right field line back into the crowd. 0-1 the count. Large crowd on hand, certainly for the Juan Uribe bobblehead. Of course, everybody loved him here, including his teammates. Strike 1 pitch on the way, swung on and foul back. 0-2. I'm sure Yasiel Puig, he used to have so much fun with Papi, Juan Uribe, whose picture is in the Dodger dugout. Should remove that paper cup. But with Uribe and Hyun-Jin Ryu, Puig was a very happy camper. Strike 2 pitch, ball 1. He and Ryu had constant fun, and he and Uribe would be hollering at each other the full length of the dugout and the dressing room. And now they're gone. And Puig, I'm sure, feels somewhat alone. 1-2 pitch on the way, foul back. So Youngman's having some pretty good hacks up there. 1-2 the count. Youngman, among other things, was on the all-academic first team in B12 in 2010 and 11. Fouls another one back. He also won the Dick Howser Trophy as the nation's top collegiate pitcher and was a unanimous pick for B12 Pitcher of the Year. Taylor Youngman. He had a very bad time. He had bad numbers in the minor leagues for one big reason. 1-2 pitch is swung on and fouled away. He throws somewhat across his body. That is a no-no to pitching coaches. So they tried to make him change his delivery, and he was just awful. So then they finally said, okay, go on back to the way you were pitching, and here he is. No score in the third. Now the 1-2 pitch on the way. Line drive, base hit into right field. Over to the line is Puig, jogging to first, and now 2 for 10 is Youngman.
Number 28, Gerardo Parra.
So Gerardo Parra coming up. That is hit number 2 against Brandon Beachy. Parra singled in the first inning. We had mentioned earlier about Beachy and the problems he has as far as foul balls, and that was certainly shown with the at-bat by Youngman. There has been only one swing and miss, and there have been 10 foul balls to contribute to the 43 pitches. So here's Parra, shows bunt, drops it foul, and the count 0-1. As far as the pitching goes, Milwaukee's struggling to come up with some strong pitching. The Dodgers, as we mentioned at the outset, using Brandon Beachy for their 26th pitcher this year. 0-1 the count. And the next pitch popped up on the infield in foul ground. Justin Turner is there and makes the catch for the out. So Parra fouls out. Holding to first, the pitcher Youngman, and here comes Jonathan LaCroix.
Jonathan LaCroix.
When you look at the Milwaukee pitching, Jimmy Nelson, who pitched so well last night and lost, is 6-9. Kyle Loesch, who pitches tomorrow, is 5-10. Matt Garza is 4-10. So the pitching staff not impressing anybody with those numbers. Of course, when you're 19.5 games back, you don't figure to have a good pitching staff. And the first pitch is high, ball 1 to LaCroix. Brewers are 14 games under 500. 1-1. The one thing about Milwaukee, they're not a bad road team. Of course, they won 7 straight until they lost last night. But with all their other problems, they're only 2 games under 500. Foul ball right into the mask of Yasmani Grandal. We told a story last night. It was about Mike Matheny when he caught. Mike Matheny, and you can look at Grandal's eyes. Mike Matheny said every time he took a lick in the mask, it bothered his eyesight. One time he went back to the dugout and all he wanted to do was go to sleep. And then one time he said Matt Morris was pitching and he had already taken a severe foul ball in the mask. So Matheny went out to Morris and said to him, look, throw a fastball no matter what I do behind the plate. And then Matheny went behind the plate and started flashing curveball. And Morris thought, well, he's setting it up just like he said. So Morris cut loose a good 93-mile-an-hour fastball. And the catcher Matheny had forgotten all about what they had talked about on the mound. And the ball hit Matheny in the chest, kicked off, and a run scored. And Morris was furious. And he said to Matheny in the dugout, what's wrong with you? And Matheny had no idea of the conversation that had just taken place. So when they take a lick, foul ball like that, there are after effects. Dodgers will be watching very carefully for the Yasmani Grandal. I mean, he might look 100%, but sometimes could be eye problems, could be sleepy, or could forget. 2-1. Youngman at first, 1 out in the third, no score. And the pitch of the plate swung on, lifted to center, a playable ball. Jock Peterson waiting for it to come down out of the powder blue and makes the catch for the second out. So I guess now if you're Craig Counsell, you're not looking at the beautiful skyline. You're not thinking about sunset. You're probably thinking, I wish Youngman didn't lead off the inning with a base hit. I mean, he's got 2 innings under his belt. He has struck out 3, and he has not had any rest. And the batter will be Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun topped the ball out in front of the plate, was thrown out by Grandal, and would have been called out anyway because he was running inside the first base foul line all the way to first base. So Braun, the right-hand batter, waiting. Here comes Beachy and works it low and away. 1 ball and no strikes to Ryan Braun. Braun, of course, got into a mess in Milwaukee. He was the MVP. Then they wanted to take it away from him. He beat out Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp said, I don't want the award. Braun swings, fouls it back. Ryan Braun was born in Mission Hills. He had a home in Granada Hills, went to school at the University of Miami. He had 4 years where he had 100 RBIs or more. Swings on a high fly ball into left center field on the dead run is Ethier. It's going to go off the wall. Over to play it is Peterson, but the ball kicks over the wall, and they will send runners back to second and third. So after all of that, if it wasn't tough enough to have Youngman standing at first after his leadoff single, I believe they're going to send him back. Craig Counsell will argue as to where Youngman was when the ball went over the fence. It was a big high curveball, so Beachy got away with something. Racing parallel was Ethier, couldn't make the play. Then it hits in the air. Peterson comes over and it disappears. So they will send Youngman back to third on the ground rule double for Ryan Braun. So again, the pitcher paying the price. Counsell is still ready, I think, to review it. The third base coach, Ed Cedar, talking to the plate umpire. Take another look. Now, maybe what they're saying is it went off Ethier's glove. And if it went off Ethier's glove, the ball is in play. And that will have something to do with whether Youngman scores or not. Watch Ethier. It looked like it hit his knee. You wondered how the ball could have caromed at such a sharp angle. And that's what it is. So the ball hit the knee. Craig Counsell talking, and now Joe West wants to talk to G.J. Rayburn. The ball went over the fence, but how did it go over the fence? So Cowboy Joe and Craig Counsell still there. and apparently they could see that ball hit Ethier and go over. The council trying to say he should have a run, and it looks like, well, they're going to review it. That's the best thing to do, because the first time you just thought it kicked off. Second time you thought, well, maybe it hit Ethier's glove. And the third time we realized the ball actually hit Ethier's knee. So that's a legitimate case for review. And once Mattingly hears about it. So we will see. No score here in the third. However, Braun's double has sent Youngman at least to third. And again, it's a tough inning for the pitcher. He led off with a single and no rest for the weary. Here's another look. There's the carom, and there it hits Ethier's knee and goes up into the stands. And a fan makes a very good catch up there. Watch now, right there. And see, the ball takes that crazy angle and goes back up into the stand. So Joe West, who's the crew chief, the plate umpire, and the third base umpire, DJ Rayburn, listening to the review of the videotape in New York. And in a moment, we'll get a report. Joe takes the headset off a couple of times. Meanwhile, Counsell, frustrated, lost a bitter game last night, leading 2-0 behind a great effort by Jimmy Nelson. So he made a defensive move, and the defensive move proved offensive as far as Milwaukee was concerned. And the Brewers lost the game last night. So still waiting for the decision. Meanwhile, the Dodger trio in the outfield has their own little meeting. All right, Joe's going to take the headset off. And here's the report. Not quite sure what that meant. It looks like the runners will stay at second and third. So Craig Counsell, a freshman manager, no minor league experience as a manager, but he's learning the heartbreak and the frustration as the club, 14 games under 500, buried in last place. So second and third, 2 out, first base open. Here's Adam Lind. Lind fouled out to Justin Turner in the second inning. Lind has a look at a pitch off the plate, and the count 1 ball and no strikes. Lind hitting .291. Beachy trying to get out of a jam, and the next pitch is high, ball 2. We have 2 down, runners at second and third. Adam Lind hitting .309 against right-handers, only .234 against left. All 15 home runs against right-handers, and he looks at ball 3. First base open, and of all people, Carlos Gomez on deck. So Lind, who's been red hot for the last 32 games for a little over a month, up there 3-0, time for the moment. Lind, with runners in scoring position and 2 out, is hitting .424, and they wisely decided, you know what, let's put him on. So Lind draws the walk. That would be the third walk given up by Brandon Beachy, and now he faces another tough hombre in Carlos Gomez. So Gomez coming up. He's already been involved in the game. He drew a walk in the second inning, was teasing Yasiel Puig about trying to draw him into a bad throw, got on him again as they passed each other, and then had the joy of doubling up Grandal on Puig's fly ball in the second inning. So Carlos takes ball 1. Here's the play. There's Gomez talking to Puig, and now he'll gesture, I want you to throw the ball in the upper deck. And Puig makes something back, and Gomez is really on him. 1-0 pitch swung on right into Grandal's mask again. 1 ball and 1 strike. Boy, he's taken a couple of shots. Wow. So Carlos Gomez with a 1-ball, 1-strike count, and the bases are loaded. Youngman at third, Braun at second, Lind at first, 2 out. Beachy ready, big slow curveball, but it stayed high, and it's a 2-ball, 1-strike count. Boy, that's a tough, daring pitch to make with the bases loaded, and a guy like Gomez, who has 1 career grand slam, and he got it this year against Cincinnati just a week ago. 2-1 pitch coming up. Beachy delivers, swung on, a mile-high fly ball. It appears playable, maybe. And it's Ethier at the wall. It's going to be off the wall. 1 run will score. 2 runs will score. 3 runs will score on a booming double by Carlos Gomez. So Brandon Beachy after walking Lind on a 3-0 pitch. And Gomez comes up with that long double to drive in 3. Almost hit the grand slam. So they finally get Youngman back on the bench. The pitch was up above the belt. At first, I think Gomez thought he made out, but the ball carried up the air, went Ethier, just missed it, and then the ball carried back away from Peterson, and 3 runs scored. Rick Honeycutt going out. So what a big difference. When Gomez hit it, he thought he had made out. He was angry. Instead, he has a 3-run double, his 17th of the year. For Gomez, he also has 39 runs batted in. In the Dodger bullpen, Juan Nicasio, watch if you're watching, see, slings it away, muttering, darn it, in Spanish. Anyway, he's not muttering anymore. A bases clearing double, 3-0 in favor of Milwaukee. So near and yet so far for both sides. Almost a grand slam and almost an out. And Nicasio is throwing in the pen. So Youngman finally gets to the dugout. And here's Ramirez, who walked in the 2nd inning. And the fastball, low ball 1. Three runs, 4 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Next pitch is a little low. For Brandon Beachy, he has now made 62 pitches. Now being pitched in a big league game for 23 months. A lot of adrenaline involved in it. 2-0 pitch, and that finds the mark, and they count 2-1. So Ramirez coming up with a runner at second and 3 runs in the bank. Gomez standing at second. Remember, he was trying to steal third last time he was out there, and Ramirez fouls it away. When Gannett was at the plate in the 2nd inning, there were 2 outs. Gomez at second base, and on the pitch to Gannett, he was trying to steal third. Gannett grounded out, and the inning ended. But he's pumped tonight for whatever reason, all over Yasiel Puig. 2-2 the count to Aramis Ramirez. Beachy ready, back he comes, fastball swung on and missed, and down goes Ramirez. So the damage is done. That double, and of course the big problem was letting the pitcher get a base hit to open up the inning. By the way, Craig Counsell has not had enough. He's going to talk some more with Cowboy Joe at the plate. Youngman heading for the mound. 3-0 Milwaukee. third inning, and the man who was right in the middle of the big discussion was Andre Ethier, and he'll lead it off. When Ethier went back on that ball, if he were leaping in the air and the ball hits his glove and then goes over the fence, it's a home run. And the big question we understand now was no dispute about the ball hitting him on the knee. If the ball had hit him on the knee directly coming off the wall like this, but you see it hit the ground, otherwise had it been in the air, it would have been the same thing as going off his glove instead of off his knee, and it would have been a grand slam. What they had to do is check, and they saw that the ball hit the ground. All right. 3 runs, 4 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Ethier had the big hit last night as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning. He drove home Van Slyke and Rollins, and then Peterson doubled home Ethier, and that was the game. So Youngman, we'll see about all that time he spent on the bases. Fastball, missed, ball 4. We have a moment to talk about it. You know, the last 2 times that the World Series ended with a walk-off hit, Craig Counsell was on base for the winning hit. In 1997, Craig was with Florida, and in 2001 with Arizona, when Luis Gonzalez flared one to center, it was Counsell who scored the winning run. He was a good player. All right, Ethier at first, Jimmy Rollins at the plate, and the first pitch in for a strike, 0-1. Brandon Beachy on deck. Dodgers with 1 hit. That was Grandal's single in the 2nd inning. Strike 1, pitch on the way is taken low, 1-1. Giants and Phillies are still tied 1-1. They're in the 4th inning. Talking about the Giants, you know, the Dodgers have that big trip coming up, a very important trip against some pretty good ball clubs. Here's the 1-1 pitch, swung on, fouled away. The Dodgers will leave after the All-Star break. They will play Washington, Atlanta, and the Mets. Well, while the Dodgers are playing those teams, the Giants will play Arizona while the Dodgers play Washington. Giants will play San Diego while the Dodgers play Atlanta. And the Giants will play Oakland while the Dodgers are playing the Mets. Hard ground ball to Lynn. He goes to Segura. Back to Lynn. Picture double play. And just like that, 2 down. So 3-6-3. Brandon Beachy coming up. So Beachy, his first major league at bat in a few years. Saying something to Jonathan LaCroix before checking in. 2 out, 3rd inning, 3-0 Milwaukee. Fastball in for a strike. Taylor Youngman, the pride of Texas, up against the kid from Kokomo, Brandon Beachy. Strike 1, pitch is swung on and foul back, and the count 0-2. Concluding game of the series and of the homestand tomorrow. Kyle Lohse with a record of 5-10 will go up against Brett Anderson with a record of 5-5. So Lohse looking on. Strike 2, pitch on the way, waved at and missed. That'll do it for Brandon and for the Dodgers. So in 3 innings, Youngman has only faced 9 men and leads 3-0 at the end of 3. to you by Flex Alert. This summer, the power is in your hands. FlexAlert.org. And by the Acura It's That Kind of Summer event. We have reached the fourth inning, 3-0 in favor of Milwaukee. Brandon Beachy getting ready to pitch to Gene Segura. Then Scooter Gennett. And then the pitcher, Taylor Youngman. Segura flied to right field with 2 on in the second inning, 0 for 1. In fact, that was the play where Gomez got all over Puig. It was a fly ball down the right field line. Puig caught it in foul ground. Carlos Gomez bluffing at second base to draw a throw. And then after he drew the throw, he looked out at Puig and gestured as if say, I wanted you to throw it in the upper deck. And then did the same thing to Puig when they were exchanging sides. That's going to be into left field for a base hit. So Segura opens up the fourth with a single to left, and that'll bring up Scooter Gennett.
Number 2, Scooter Gennett.
3 runs and 5 hits against Brandon Beachy, and toss in a couple of walks. Beachy has 1 strikeout. He nailed Ramirez. Rick Honeycutt had Nicasio throwing a little while ago. There was no action in the pen, but he's going to get somebody up. So Scooter with Segura at first. Segura, a terrific base stealer, and a changeup for a strike. And Nicasio is up a second time. Segura has stolen 12 out of 15. No balls and 1 strike. Segura might be going any time during the sequence. Gennett hitting .239. Gennett playing every day and hitting 8th. Has only walked 6 times. There goes Segura on a foul ball. So they're running him 0-2. When you look at Segura in the background, he has stolen 33 bases, 44 bases. In the minor leagues, he stole 50. They've always worried because he's somewhat thick-legged, big thighs, but he can still run. 0-2. Ball 1. Fastball that just took off. I think the Dodgers were hoping to get 5 innings from Brandon. Well, he's in the 4th. 1-2. Big overhand curveball. So that does it for Gennett. Second strikeout for Brandon Beachy. And the batter now will be Taylor Youngman, who singled to right, went to third on the double by Braun, and then walked in on that long double by Gomez. Bunts down to get it. Adrian, the tag, down to second base goes Segura. So the sacrifice works, and they leave it up to Gerardo Parra. Fist bump from Craig Counsell. For Youngman, he is a good man to sacrifice. That's his 4th. So he can get it down. Gerardo Parra, single to center, fouled out, 1-4-2. And a bunt, but it goes foul. The Parra 1-4-2. At the very start of the game, we talked about the fact that Parra is a threat to bunt. The fact that he has 5 bunt singles and he has 15 infield hits. Parra batting .305. Gene Segura out there at second base with 2 out in the 4th. 3-0 Brewers. And that's going to go foul down the left field line, back into the crowd. Good sized crowd tonight on Juan Uribe bobblehead night. The next bobblehead will be when the team comes home off the road trip on the 29th of July against the Oakland A's. That will be Yasiel Puig bobblehead. And tomorrow it's the kids' hamper. Here's the strike 2 pitch to Parra, and he holds up, ball 1. 1-2 to Gerardo. One of the few Gold Glovers that ever played for Arizona. Orlando Hudson, Steve Finley, and Gerardo Parra. 1-2. 2-2. Parra, who came up in 2009, is right up there with some of the best arms in baseball. Parra has 67 assists. He used to play right field for Milwaukee. He plays left. 2-2. And ground ball, nice pick by Gonzalez. Overhands in time to Beachy, and that's the inning. So the leadoff single to Segura does not hurt the Dodgers. And at the end of 3.5 innings, Milwaukee 3, Dodgers nothing. Fireworks come out early July 31st. Take your place on the field for a fireworks show featuring music from the 1980s. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. In the bottom of the 4th inning, it'll be Peterson, Kendrick, and Turner. Brandon Beachy has made 78 pitches in 4 innings. No action in the pen. Meanwhile, Taylor Youngman has made only 37 pitches. Struck out Peterson in the 1st inning. Ball 1. Ramirez all alone on the left side. Segura crosses the line over beyond second base, in the outfield straight away. 1 ball and no strikes. That's 1 ball, 1 strike. Peterson's big double last night, a 1-hopper to the small wall in front of the box seats in the left field corner. And at his left foot, ball 2. 2-1. Anderson and Loesch tomorrow, the concluding game. Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets, won 3 out of 4 from Philadelphia, and trying to see if they can sweep Milwaukee. Brandon Beachy has to be a little tired, but he's done a pretty good job. 3-1. And that's off the plate, ball 4. So Peterson draws the walk. Howie Kendrick coming up. Kendrick turned in a beauty. A double play ball in the first inning. A diving stop. Got up off his knees. Fed it to Rollins, who doubled LaCroix at first base. As usual, Howie solid in all areas, hitting .292. 7 home runs, 37 runs batted in. The Phillies and the Giants are tied 1-1 in the 5th inning. Giants are probably a little exhausted. Last night they had 15 runs on 22 hits. Tonight they've got 1. Kendrick hit back to the box in the first inning. Howie 0 for 1. One ball and no strikes. There have not been a lot of swings and misses against Youngman, but the ones that have swung and missed, the velocity was different each time, from 92 to 85, then to 76, 78, back up to 91. So that's what it's doing so far, allowing just 1 hit. Yasmani Grandal single in the 2nd inning. He has walked 2, including Peterson, starting the 4th. And a strike. 1-1. Taylor Youngman 3-0 on the road. His only loss at home. Of course, when you look at Milwaukee's numbers, you can see the difference. At home, they are 12 games under 500. On the road, they're only 2 games under 500. Had they won last night, they'd be 500 on the road. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fastball up the middle, base hit to center. Peterson will round second and hold. Gomez throws behind him. Though Peterson looking out at the veteran center fielder. And the Dodgers now in business. First and second, nobody out. Just under Youngman's glove. There's Peterson drawing a throw, and Gomez went right after him. Remember, Gomez doubled up Grandal, trying to get back in the 2nd inning. So Justin Turner coming up represents the potential tying run. 2 on, nobody out, bottom of the 4th. Turner struck out in the 1st inning. One ball and no strikes. Well, now there's a man who really made a great catch. A great way to carry the sun around in an oversized glove. Okay, Dad, we understand it's a big thrill. We get that. So far, Against a ground ball pitcher, the Dodgers have hit one fly ball, and it turned into a double play. And a strike, 1-1. Taylor Youngman, 25 years old. He'd be 26 in the middle of December. Ready to make his 48th pitch. And this is the area we mentioned earlier where he's in trouble. From 46 to 60 pitches, the opposition is hitting 368. Fastball, 1-2. So if he gets through up through 60 pitches, 12 more, then he gets very tough. 2 on. Peterson who walked, Kendrick who singled. Nobody out. 3-0 Milwaukee. Two and two. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez struck out in the second inning. Two balls and two strikes. Breaking ball pulled to ground. Segura to Gannett to Lind. And there's the double play. There's that ground ball by the sinking pitcher. And over to third goes Peterson. Second ground ball double play, and the third in the game turned in by Milwaukee. Segura, Gannett, and Lind. The batter now, Adrian Gonzalez, with a runner at third. With a runner at third, we always check. Youngman has 3 wild pitches. Fastball pulled right to Lind, who is deep on the line, and that's it. Dodgers get a walk and a base hit and come up empty. So no runs, a hit, a man left at third, and at the end of 4, hello there, young man. It's 3-0 Milwaukee. Sunday, revisit one of the most memorable moments in Dodger Stadium history when they hosted the 1980 All-Star Game. Take a look back as Dodger greats Steve Garvey, Davey Lopes, and more lead the National League to victory. Don't miss Timeless Dodgers. That'll be Monday at 9 p.m. on Sportsnet LA. Well, what a story. Brandon Beachy, who had not been to a mound in the big leagues in 23 months, went 4 innings, and gave up 3 runs, all earned, struck out 2, walked 3, 78 pitches, and I'm sure in some ways the Dodgers were happy. So he waited 23 months, but how about Chin-Wei So? Chin-Wei So picked up a victory last night. He went 8 years between major league seasons in 2007 and then 2015. His victory last night was his first win since May the 11th, 2005. He's from Taiwan, 6'1", 210, 34 years old, and was signed originally back in 1999 by the Colorado Rockies. So to go 8 years, that's quite a story. Pick up the win, and now he's right back in action tonight against Jonathan LaCroix. 3-0 Milwaukee. LaCroix 0 for 2 and a strike. Jonathan hit into a double play, hit the ball hard. Howie Kendrick made a good play to start it. Then last time he flied to center. Ground ball, coming back to get it is Rollins. LaCroix runs well as a catcher, but he's thrown out, 1 away. Now Ryan Braun.
Number 8, Ryan Braun.
Ryan Braun topped the ball out in front of the plate as Monty Grandal threw him out, and then started all the trouble with Youngman at first and 2 out. He doubled to left. That sent Youngman to third. The big debate, how did the ball get over the wall? It was agreed upon the ball hit the wall, hit the ground, and then bounced up over. We can show it to you again. It was worth a review. It was a big hanging curveball, and the ball took a funny angle. When it hits Ethier, it goes over the wall. But if it had hit Ethier on the fly coming off the wall, it would be the same if it hit him in his glove and it went over the wall. But it bounced first, and as soon as it ground ball double, and that was the solution as they checked with New York. So 1 out, Braun at the plate. 1-2. Then Carlos Gomez, with the bases loaded, came up and was angry when he hit the ball. He thought he had made out. Turned out to be a double and 3 runs batted in, which is the score. One and two the count to Ryan Braun. Braun right up there in RBIs. He's 5th. He has 55. One of only 5 players in the majors this year with at least 15 home runs and 10 stolen bases. He has stolen 12 out of 13. So down he goes. Who are the others? Paul Goldschmidt, Machado, Rizzo, Souza. Okay, 2 down here in the 5th inning. Adam Lind, the first baseman, popped up and walked as Braun goes back to the dugout. Lind is a dynamite hitter with runners in scoring position, and especially against right-hand pitching. So when the Dodgers went to 3-0 on him, they decided to walk him intentionally to load the bases, and that's when Gomez came up and double home 3. One ball and no strikes. And a fly ball down the left field line, going over to the gate and playing it off the gate is Ethier. On his way into second base with a stand-up double goes Adam Lind. Hit that thing a long way the other way to bang it off the bullpen gate in left field. take another look. He went after a fastball that seemed to be tailing away, and he hit it all the way to the bullpen gate. So a 2-out double brings up Carlos Gomez. Gomez trying to get Lind home. He's had a big night. He has walked. He doubled home 3. He caught a fly ball and doubled off Grandal in the second inning. Gomez, and there are a few hitters like that, doesn't seem to do very much when the bases are empty. You wonder about his concentration. But when runners on, he's hitting .387. With runners in scoring position, he's hitting .383. Toughest of all, with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, hitting .361. And his double that drove in 3 came with 2 outs. Foul ball out of play. Take another look at the Gomez double. He slammed the bat down. He was angry. He thought he had made out. But he almost hit it over the left field wall. So 3 runs scored. Gomez with 3 RBIs has 39. And now trying to pick up Lind from second base. 1-2. There are 2 home Gomez. The other is a shortstop, Hector Gomez, from the Dominican. Got him on a high fastball at 95. So comes in, gives up a double, but that's it. No runs, 1 hit, and a man left at the end of 4.5. 3-0 Milwaukee. Oh my goodness, a monster. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Now, during Toyota's summer savings, you can save big on any 2015 Camry. 3-0 in favor of Milwaukee. Oh, there's a good one of Poppy with the cigar. Juan Uribe bobblehead night. Dodgers last night did not get a base hit until the 6th inning. They have 2 hits as they go to the bottom of the 5th inning, and a slow breaking ball for a strike to Grandal. Yasmani singled in the 2nd inning. Puig hit a fly ball with Grandal going, and Yasmani was doubled up trying to get back. That's a comebacker. one away, and the batter will be Yasiel Puig. By the way, Ryan Howard hit his 349th career home run that put the Phillies ahead 2-1 in the 6th inning. Yasiel Puig, a fly ball to Carlos Gomez, who doubled up Grandal. And a breaking ball is sliced into right center, and there's Gomez to take an extra base hit away from him. So for Puig and Gomez, a little rivalry going on, and Gomez is enjoying every moment of it. Ball was hit well, but you can see Gomez was off and running. He had to be to catch up to it. So well hit for an out. Gomez looking over at Parra with a big grin. He looks like he's having an awful lot of fun. Puig's like, I don't know what's going on with him. That's a strike to Ethier. Ethier walked in the 3rd inning. Yasiel is 0 for 2 tonight. Fastball grounded just foul. DJ Rayburn, the third base umpire, self-preservation first. Call the play in a moment later. Right down the line, and DJ's going to take a hike and then call it. 0-2. He's been umpiring in the big leagues for 3 years. And Ethier badly fooled on a changeup and strikes out. So the Dodgers tiptoe through the 5th, and at the end of 5, 3-0 Milwaukee. Marked the birth of the greatest baseball player of all time, I think, without question, and that would be Babe Ruth, who inducted into the Hall of Fame with the first class in 1936. The Babe with 90 some odd wins as a pitcher and 714 home runs as an outfielder. Let's go back to this one. Aramis Ramirez fouls it away, 0-1. Interesting with Babe Ruth, when he went into the Hall of Fame with the first class, Ty Cobb was another, and about a year or two later they actually took the Hall of Fame plaque of Babe Ruth and gave it a little bit of a tour. First appropriately enough, it went to Yankee Stadium. Then they brought it over to Grand Central Station so everybody could see it. And then eventually it went back to Cooperstown. That's a drive into the gap. Peterson on his horse and makes a try, but he can't do it. Puig is up with it on his way into second base is Ramirez, and he is out. Yasiel Puig guns that ball in to Jimmy Rollins, and Ramirez is nailed. So for all the teasing that Puig has gotten from Carlos Gomez, he comes up with a dandy. Peterson can't catch up to it. Puig goes over and plays the carom and then guns it in. And Ramirez goes in and is tagged out. So give him a single to right, and he's out at second base. 9-6. Puig to Rollins. So Sao is chased as he gives up a hit. That's his second hit allowed. Yasiel doing what he loves to do, throw a runner out. And now here's Gene Segura, fouled out to Puig and single to left. Ball one. Adam Libator begins to warm up in the Dodger bullpen because Sal is due to bat second when the Dodgers come up in the sixth inning. Little ground ball up the middle. Rollins behind the bag. Boy, that's close, but he got him. So 2 out in the sixth inning. And Scooter Gennett coming up, grounded out and struck out.
Number 2, Scooter
Segura
Gennett.
really playing all out. It's great to see a guy play hard for a team that's going absolutely nowhere except back to Milwaukee. And yet you see the competitive instinct. It's great to see. 2 out. Gennett is grounded out, struck out, 0 for 2. Breaking ball pulled, and at the other end of it, Adrian Gonzalez. That was a hot potato. So Gennett grounds out. The big play was Puig throwing out Ramirez, trying for a double. No runs, a hit, nobody left. Bottom of the sixth, 3-0 Milwaukee. The Dodgers have only 2 hits. Yasiel Puig, however, doing what he loves to do. Ramirez trying to stretch a long single into a double. Puig just picked the ball up and arrowed one in on the fly to Rollins, and Ramirez was out trying to slide in. So Puig talking to Adrian Gonzalez somewhat about the throw, I'm sure. Meanwhile, the Dodgers last night had 2 hits through 6 innings. Tonight they have 2 hits through 5 innings. and it'll be Rollins, then Alex Guerrero to hit for Sal, and then Peterson. Sal, by the way, made 19 pitches in 2 innings. Did very well with a little help from Puig. Sal talking to Yasmani Grandal. High fly ball to deep right center, but playable. And there's Gomez. So Rollins a long out, 1 down. You know, you can be one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance on Wednesday, July 29th, and you'll receive a Yasiel Puig bobblehead presented by Jack in the Box. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Now, if you could only wind it up and it could throw a ball, now you really would have something. Alex Guerrero, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs coming off the bench as a pinch hitter. Half swing foul, no balls and 1 strike. Guerrero pinch hit for Zach Greinke the other night and grounded out. Last night the Dodgers used Callaspo and Ethier as pinch hitters. Good breaking ball. 0-2. Taylor Youngman, very impressive. 6'6", 215 pounds. Fastball, 1-2. Really threw over and across his body on that pitch. That was the one thing they didn't like about him. But they couldn't change him. And here he is. 3 wins, 1 loss. Breaking ball up the middle. Segura, nice pick. Throws on the run and gets him. Gene Segura making a good play to take a hit away from Guerrero. Ball had a chance, but he caught up to it and then able to make the off balance throw with just enough on it to beat Guerrero. So 2 down, and Jock Peterson coming up. Peterson struck out in the first inning, walked in the 4th. He's the only Dodger to get to third base. It's still 3-0 Milwaukee. 3 runs back in the 3rd inning. A bases clearing double by Carlos Gomez. Off speed, change for a strike. 0-1. So the big boy out of Texas, Taylor Youngman. Fastball lifted to left center. Coming over and calling his par, but it's the center fielder out there who puts it away. So the Dodgers go very quietly. That's 8 in a row since Kendrick singled in the 4th inning. And at the end of 6, the Dodgers need more than Juan Uribe. 3-0 Milwaukee. Nothing, top of the 7th inning. Tomorrow's the final game of the homestand. That will be Brett Anderson for the Dodgers and Kyle Loesch for Milwaukee. The All-Star game is on Tuesday the 14th. There's an off day before and 2 off days after, and then the Dodgers go out on the road in Washington on Friday the 17th. That is a big road trip. Washington, Atlanta, and the Mets. And again, we'll tell you, as the Dodgers are playing Washington, the Giants play Arizona. While the Dodgers play Atlanta, the Giants play San Diego. While the Dodgers play the Mets, the Giants play Oakland. So it is a very important trip for the Dodgers. But right now, they better concentrate on Milwaukee. They were losing last night into the 7th inning, 2-0. They're losing tonight 3-0 into the 7th inning, and Adam Liebertor will now pitch to Taylor Youngman. 0-1. Youngman singled to right field in the 3rd inning and sacrificed his 4th sacrifice of the year in the 4th inning. So he looks like an all-around ball player besides being a very good pitcher. 0-1. That's a strike. 0-2. Adam Liebertor just trying to keep the Brewers quiet. Dodgers will have Kendrick, Turner, and Gonzalez in the bottom of the 7th. Fastball, comeback error. So Youngman hits back to the box, 1 out. I think in some ways Craig Counsell is glad to get Youngman back in the dugout, although that base hit in the 3rd inning, when it looked like he was going to just stand out there and get tired, he singled. 2 outs later, he was still at first. Then Braun doubled him to 3rd. Then there was a walk. Then there was a double by Gomez, and only when Ramirez struck out did Youngman have a chance to breathe and go back out to the mound, and it obviously didn't bother him. That's a strike to Parra. 1 for 3 tonight. 1 for 7 in the series. On 1. And Parra hits one to deep right center field. Puig going back. That one's in the stands. So Gerardo Parra takes Liebertor downtown. For Parra, that would be his 9th home run, 28th run batted in, and that makes it 4-0 in favor of Milwaukee. For the Brewers, that would be their 82nd home run. Fans throw the ball back on the field. So 4 runs, 8 hits now for the Brewers. Parra got a fastball right out over the plate, and he certainly knew what to do with it. No doubt about it. So now Jonathan LaCroix hit into a double play, fly to center, grounded out, and takes a strike. 0-1. For Liebertor, that would only be the 2nd home run that he's allowed, as Parra takes him deep. Pedro Baez begins to throw in the Dodger bullpen. Fastball. LaCroix hitting .238. Hit into a double play in the 1st inning. Hit the ball hard, but Kendrick made a good play. Then he flied to center and grounded to short. LaCroix had a wonderful year. last year. He's very talented. He had that fractured toe, which has kind of slowed down this year. But last year in the MVP voting, as you know, Clayton Kershaw won it. Then you had Giancarlo Stanton and Andrew McCutchen of Pittsburgh. And number 4 in the voting, Jonathan LaCroix. He was also a finalist for the Gold Glove, but to no one's surprise, Yadier Molina got that. 2-2 the count to Jonathan LaCroix. Last year, he led the major leagues in doubles. That made him the first primary catcher in modern baseball history, which means since 1900, to lead the league in that category. He had 53 doubles last year. 2-2. Sprayed foul. With LaCroix last year, he had 46 doubles as a catcher. Ivan Rodriguez had 45. LaCroix had 7 doubles while not catching. But a total of 53. With everything else, he hit .301 last year. Fastball fouled away. LaCroix, out of the University of Louisiana Lafayette, from Eustis, Florida, 3rd round pick by the Brewers back in '07. We told you earlier about him having 2 7 RBI games in the same season. Did that in 2012. 2-2. And that's going to be hit in the gap. There's nobody there. Over to cut it off is Peterson. LaCroix hustling into second base and has himself a double. Maybe he doesn't have 53 doubles this year, but LaCroix, being out so long, now has 8.
Ryan Braun.
So Youngman, a comebacker, Parra a home run, and LaCroix a breaking ball up. And he hits it in the gap. Peterson finally runs over to pick it up. So for Milwaukee, they have a home run and they have 3 doubles. LaCroix, Braun, and Lind. Oh, and Gomez. So make it 4. And they will walk Braun. And Liberatore will go up against the left-hander Lind, who has struggled against left-handers. Adam Lind is hitting .234 against left-hand pitching. No home runs, 5 runs batted in. Against right-hand pitching, 15 home runs, 47 runs batted in, and a .309 average. So you can understand why they would pitch around Braun, who had doubled in the 3rd inning. Four runs, 9 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Honeycutt to the mound. Brewers, for one reason or another, play very well here at Dodger Stadium. In fact, if you go back to 2010, including the fact they lost last night, the Brewers over that stretch are 11-5. They were so close to being 12-4. And thanks to Carlos Gomez and others, they're enjoying a 4-0 lead tonight. Last year, the Brewers beat the Dodgers 5 out of 6, and all 3 games played here. So for whatever reason, a last place team, 19.5 games back, and they come in here and play very, very well. Except for the error last night. Well, never mind. So here's Adam Lind. From Anderson, Indiana. I would hope he has met Carl Erskine. He'll be better for it. Lind has popped up, walked intentionally, and doubled. His double hit the bullpen gate in left field. Ball one. So Liberatore needs 2 more outs to get out of the inning. Beachy allowed 3 runs, so allowed a couple of hits, but nothing for 2 innings. Now Liberatore gave up the home run to Parra. Breaking ball away. 2-0 the count. Adam Lind was originally signed by the Toronto Blue Jays. Came up to the Blue Jays back in 2006. Seems like he's pulling off every pitch against a left-hander. 2 balls and 1 strike. And popped up in foul ground. Grandal and Turner. It's Turner. So Lind fouls out. 2 out. Runners at first and second. And here comes Gomez again. And Don Mattingly is going to go to the pen. And Pedro Baez, throwing in the pen, will be called in to face Carlos Gomez. Gomez has walked and doubled. He has thrown out a runner. He has made a fine running catch. He has done just about everything. So the Dodgers, trying to slow him down, will bring in Pedro Baez, and we'll be right back. He has a record of 1 win, 1 loss, an earned run average of 3. He has allowed 1 home run. Walk to strikeout ratio pretty good, a little better than 4-1. And the opposition hitting .224. The only criticism of Baez the other night, it seemed like it took him forever between pitches. So we'll see if he has speeded it up a little bit tonight. The reaction from some veterans as we look at Carlos Gomez was Baez taking so much time shows a somewhat lack of confidence. So we'll see. Gomez doesn't show any lack of confidence. Came up in the 3rd inning and unloaded with the bases loaded Efield going back, leaping up against the wall, couldn't pick it up. The ball carrying back to the infield. Next thing you know, 3 runs were in. Gomez was at second base, and the Brewers led 3-0. Well, they now lead 4-0. By the way, the Giants were down 4-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Pagan doubled in 2. Matt Duffy doubled in 2. They added another, and they're now leading 6-4. Matt Duffy is 7-11 with 4 RBIs now in the last 2 nights for the Giants. All right, we'll see about Baez and Gomez. Fastball fouled away. No play. 0-1. Carlos hitting 2. There he goes, kissing the bat. We were talking about that last night. He does that all the time. Hitting .276. 8 home runs. And that big double to drive in 3 got him up to 39. That's a strike. So no balls and 2 strikes to Carlos Gomez. Gomez not only kisses the bat, he talks to it. He's the first one to admit he talks to it. Oh, and 2. Foul back. Pedro Baez from Bani in the Dominican Republic. Gomez from Santiago in the Dominican. Oh, and 2. 2 on, 2 out. 4-0 Milwaukee. Ball 1. Oh. I mean, everywhere you look, there they are. Hello, darling. Your headgear, yes, it's breathtaking. And right behind you is another little jewel. Yes, you. Two and 2. LaCroix at second, Braun at first, 2 down, so deuce is wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Fastball, pop fly, shallow center, trio of Dodgers. It's going to bounce. 1 run will score. Here comes the 2nd run. Peterson's throw to the plate is not in time. Out at second base is Gomez. Took a big turn and held on, and it is 6-0. And for Carlos Gomez, he now has 5 runs batted in. No wonder he's been smiling all night, as Gomez a pop fly to score LaCroix and Braun. A trio of Dodgers, but it was in no man's land. The sliding effort by Peterson didn't help any, and Jock finally got up, threw it back to the plate, but not in time. So Milwaukee had a 3-run 3rd. They're now enjoying a 3-run 7th, and here's Aramis Ramirez. 5 RBIs for Carlos Gomez. That's a strike. 6 runs, 10 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Game started by Brandon Beachy, relieved by Chen-Hui Sao, then Adam Liebertor, and now Pedro Baez. For Gomez, and we were talking about his numbers before, how great he is with 2 out and runners on. That's a fly ball heading for Peterson's glove. With runners on and 2 out, Gomez was hitting .361, and he just added to that tonight. 6-0, Milwaukee. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. And by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Use promo code BLUECREW for free entry. Last night, the Dodgers went to the 7th inning and had a big problem. They have a huge problem as they enter the 7th inning tonight, and it's a strike to Howie Kendrick. Last night, trailing 2-0, Dodgers came up with 3 in the 7th to pull one out. They're down 6-0 here in the 7th this evening. Kendrick, Turner, Gonzalez. Meanwhile, Taylor Youngman moving nicely along. He's only made 67 pitches. Check swing. Having made 68 pitches, Youngman is in that very comfortable zone from 61 to 75. The opposition is hitting only 143 against him. That's going to go foul down the line and will wind up back in the stands. His 2 toughest pitch counts for Youngman, and oh, is she thrilled? Isn't that great? To be so happy over a little ball. Good for you. Ground ball up the middle, backhanded by Jeanette, off balance throw. Good tag. A fine piece of first basemanship for Adam Lind. The throw pulled him off the bag, and he wisely got Kendrick going by.
Number 10, Justin Turner.
Nice play there. Off balance throw awry. Off the bag. Got his man anyway. Justin Turner coming up. For Justin Turner and Adrian Gonzalez, things have been pretty quiet. Turner has struck out, hit into a double play. In his last 10 games, Turner has 6 hits, 34 at bats. That would be a 176 batting average. No home runs and just 2 RBIs. Turner and Gonzalez playing just about every day. So I'm sure they're looking forward to a little bit of a rest. Segura throws on the run. And just like that, 2 down in the 7th inning. And here's Adrian. For Adrian Gonzalez, he's also been relatively quiet since June 1. That covers 40 games. He has 7 home runs, 18 runs batted in, but hitting only .236. And of course, for a hitter like Adrian Gonzalez, that's low. Two out, 7th inning, 6-0 Milwaukee. Ball 1. Adrian struck out, grounded out. When he grounded out, he hit the ball hard, but he hit it right at Adam Lind. In the Dodger bullpen, Joel Peralta loosening up. 2-0. So it's been Beachy, Sal, Libator, Baez, and from the looks of things, we'll see Peralta. Baez watching every movement by Youngman. Fastball hit to left field and deep. Going back to the track, leaping up is Parra to make the catch. Well, you have a Gold Glove out there, and you expect him to do things like that. So Gonzalez a long out. That means Kendrick, Turner, and Gonzalez together collectively are 1 for 9. And if you add Peterson, it's 1 for 11. And at the end of 7, 6-0 in favor of Milwaukee. Either Youngman or Gomez. Taylor Youngman, the pitcher, has been brilliant. 7 innings, 2 hits. Carlos Gomez, 2 big doubles and 5 runs batted in. Brandon Beachy went 4 innings and made 5 hits and 3 runs. He was a little rusty in the control department, and that figures. He walked 5. But I would think the Dodgers are somewhat excited about the fact that a healthy Brandon Beachy pitched through 4 innings tonight. Dodgers double up. They bring in Scott Van Slyke to play first base, and they bring in Joel Peralta. So Van Slyke would bat 9th. Peralta would go into Adrian Gonzalez's spot. So Beachy, Sal, Libator, Baez, and now Peralta. Gene Segura followed by Scooter Gennett, and then Taylor Youngman. Ball 1. Youngman has been breezing in the last 3 innings when the Dodgers were hoping he might tire. It's been anything but. That's a strike. Youngman in the 5th inning made 6 pitches. In the 6th inning, he made 8 pitches. And in the 7th inning, he made 10 pitches. And as usual, most of the outs on the ground. Fouled away. Oh my goodness, aren't you wide awake? Just hold on to that bottle of milk and the world is yours, pal. Yep, look at all these people around here. Why aren't they all drinking a bottle of milk? They'd be like me, bright-eyed, beautiful skin. Yes, sir, you're number 1. That's going to go foul. 6 runs, 10 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Segura had 3 hits last night, 1 for 3. Somebody in his dugout getting on him. That's why he was laughing. One ball and 2 strikes. And that's hit in the air to Puig. One down in the 8th. Scooter Gennett coming up. The paid attendance tonight, 49,081. 49,081. A tribute to the memory of Juan Uribe as his bobblehead, big success tonight. And the Dodgers showing how much they cared, had those facial cutouts of Uribe in the dugout. Scooter Gennett grounded out, struck out, grounded out hard last time up to Adrian Gonzalez. A broken bat, little dribbler. Turner picks it with the glove, throws not in time. So Gennett, who hit the ball hard the last time up and made an out, chips his bat and gets a base hit.
Pitcher number 41, Taylor Youngman.
So that base hit now gives everybody in the Milwaukee lineup a base hit. Youngman, the pitcher, had a base hit back in the 3rd inning. So here is Taylor. Single, sacrificed, hit back to the box. 1 for 2. Bunts foul, 0-1. On deck, Gerardo Parra, who has a single and a home run. They're in the 7th inning up north. Giants 6, Phillies 4. Earlier it was Phillies 4, Giants 1. Youngman tries to bunt. No balls, 2 strikes. He sacrificed back in the 4th inning, and it was his 4th sacrifice of the year. 0-2. Light breeze blowing from left to right. That's off the plate, ball 1. Beautiful evening. It was 72 degrees when the game started. Boy, I love that marine air layer starting off in the morning. One ball and 2 strikes. Gonna bunt again. Fouled it back. Has struck out. So 2 out. Gennett at first. And Gerardo Parra coming up. Parra 2 for 4. singled, fouled out, grounded out, and then homered in the 7th inning. 9 home runs, 28 RBIs, a Gold Glove outfielder hitting .307. Parra stands 5'11", 200-pounder, not a power hitter. Most home runs for the Diamondbacks a couple of years ago, he hit 10. Well, he has 9 right now. And promptly bangs it into the gap in left center. Peterson can't cut it off. So here comes Jeanette, and they're going to send Scooter in, and he is scooting. And it is 7-0 in favor of Milwaukee as Parra comes up with his 3rd hit and his 2nd run batted in.
Number 20, Jonathan Lucroy.
Take another look. Clean as a whistle into the gap. Peterson couldn't cut it off, so that meant Jeanette would score. 7 runs, 12 hits for Milwaukee. They don't look like a team 19.5 games back, buried in the cellar in the Central. But again, it's a major point, and it's not a knock. It's a major point. The Dodgers are in first place, candidly, because they beat up the teams that are under 500. They're not beating up Milwaukee. But coming into this game, after winning last night, the Dodgers are 42-20 against these sub-500 teams. When they play teams above 500, it's another story. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-0. Beachy, Sal, Liberatore, Baez, Peralta. Jonathan Lucroy, 1 for 4, a double. Scored a run on the double by Gomez. That's a strike, 2-1. Peralta has certainly been around, born in 1976, so he's 39 years old. Signed as a free agent by the Oakland A's. He's from the Dominican. Two and 1. And 3-1. Dodgers using 26 different pitchers before the All-Star game. And a high fly ball. Peterson has a play. So LaCroix, fly ball to center. Nevertheless, another run for Milwaukee, and we're heading to the bottom of the 8th inning. 7-0 Milwaukee. with MLB.com At Bat. That's the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, statcasts, and more. So get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or tablet. Bottom of the 8th inning, 7-0 in favor of Milwaukee on Juan Uribe bobblehead night. Yasmani Grandal, Yasiel Puig, and Andre Ethier against Taylor Youngman. And the young man has pitched a gem through 7. Now a shot down the left field line. Grandal on his way to a double to open up matters here in the 8th inning. For Grandal, his 10th double and 2 for 3 tonight.
Right fielder number 66, Yasiel Puig.
That is only the Dodgers' 3rd hit all night. And Grandal got a fastball away. Didn't fight that, just went with it instead of trying to pull it. And has himself a double. Kike Hernandez will be batting for Jimmy Rollins, or maybe Andre Ethier. We'll see now. Ethier is due to follow Puig. Now remember, Andre's had a bit of a hamstring problem, and with the Dodgers down 7-0, I think they've decided to give him the rest of the night off. And of course, if he doesn't play tomorrow, he'll have plenty of rest. Talking to Zach Greinke. So Hernandez on deck to bat for Ethier. 1 ball and no strikes to Yasiel Puig. Has hit 2 balls to Carlos Gomez. One was fly ball, one he really hit, and Gomez made a great running catch in right center field. Carlos having a big night with the glove, with the arm, and he has 5 runs batted in. 2-0. Strike. We've seen a couple of fine looking young pitchers during this homestand. 3-1. That wasn't the case of Youngman getting in and on Puig as much as it looked like Puig was driving in on the pitch. Three balls, 1 strike. Fouled away, 3-2. Youngman has walked 2. He walked Ethier beginning the 3rd inning, and he walked Peterson in the 4th. Otherwise, he's been dynamite. He's not a pitcher who is just blowing the ball by the hitters. He has picked up a nice 5 strikeouts to go with the 2 walks and the 3 hits. 3-2 to Puig. Fastball, little chopper, glove, and a nice play by Ramirez. On the plate, Grandal advances to 3rd. So Kike Hernandez is now officially in the game as he comes up to bat for Andre Ethier. Ethier had walked and struck out. Had 2 plays on balls involving the left field wall, and both plays went for doubles. So here's Hernandez hitting .263. Fastball for a strike. 3 wild pitches during the year for Youngman. We always check that with a runner at 3rd. 0-1. Fastball lifted to right center. And there's Gomez with the runner tagging. Strong throw up the line, and the Dodgers get on the board. It's 7-1 Milwaukee. So Hernandez, fly ball, gets Grandal home. So 2 out in the 8th inning. And the batter, Jimmy Rollins. The Dodgers have only been shut out once at home, 6 times on the road, but only once here. And the Dodgers staff has been brilliant at home in shutouts. The Dodgers have 10, and the team's been blanked only once. Rollins hit into a double play, fly to center, ball 1. Seven to 1. Bottom of the 8th inning. Fastball, but he missed. 2-0. Now up to 86 pitches, and he has 2 out in the 8th inning. Now, with his pitch count moving up to 87, he's in a spot where the opposition hits 238 against him. That's a strike. Giants added a run. They're in the 7th inning up north. Giants 7, Phillies 4. So the Dodgers in danger of having their lead cut to 4.5. Ground ball. Gennett is there. So 1 run, the double by Grandal, the ground ball out, and then the fly ball. And at the end of 8, Taylor Youngman pitching a dandy, and Milwaukee leads the Dodgers 7-1. The 2015 Jeep Cherokee. With an EPA estimated 31 highway MPG, it's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com today. 9th inning, Milwaukee leading the Dodgers 7-1. Juan Nicasio becomes the 6th Dodger pitcher. It's been Beachy, Sal, Liberatore, Baez, Peralta, and now Nicasio. Kike Hernandez, who batted for Ethier, stays in the game in left field. So a pretty impressive performance by 2 young pitchers, both men big men. Jimmy Nelson last night had a gem going until the error in the 7th inning with 2 out upset the whole evening for him. And now tonight, Taylor Youngman has just been great. Kyle Loesch sitting up there making notes as he chews his bubble gum. He'll be on the mound tomorrow against Brett Anderson. Ryan Braun, and ball one. Ryan topped the ball out in front of the plate, doubled, struck out, walked intentionally. 1 ball and 1 strike. Adam Lind, the left-hand hitting first baseman, on deck. And then Carlos Gomez. 1-1. Fastball in there. Seven runs, 12 hits for Milwaukee. Everybody in the lineup has a hit, including the pitcher. The Dodgers just 1 run, 3 hits. Parra has 3 hits. Parra has a single, double, and home run. Carlos Gomez has 2 doubles and 5 runs batted in. High fastball at 96. 1 away. Talking to somebody who played with Paul Konerko. Remember Paul? Played briefly with the Dodgers, but then moved on and played very well with the White Sox. Konerko said, if I was starting, I couldn't play now. They throw too fast. So Konerko, who had some fine years, saying that he could not handle 95 and 96 mile an hour fastballs. That's right. Lind fouled out, walked intentionally, doubled, and popped up. 1-4-3. One ball, 1 strike. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, they will have Scott Van Slyke batting 9th, then Peterson and Kendrick. Foul tipped, 1-2. Boy, he's throwing hard, 96. There was a breaking ball, no swing. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 1 out, 9th inning. Last year, Milwaukee beat the Dodgers 5 out of 6. This year, should the Brewers win tonight, they will have split 6 with the final meeting tomorrow. Ball 3. Jonathan Broxton begins to loosen up in the bullpen. Not throwing the ball yet, just loosening up. Broxton's had a really rough time with Milwaukee. And that's ball 4. So a strikeout and a walk. And here he comes. Carlos Gomez has a walk and 2 doubles, 5 runs batted in. In fact, his 5 RBIs tonight ties his career high. He's done it 3 other times. 209, 13, and about 8 days ago, he had one of those games against Cincinnati. But boy, does he love to play here. Ball 1. Gomez has played 18 games in his career at Dodger Stadium, hitting a solid .350, including 4 home runs, 15 runs batted in, and 21 hits. And this time he lifts it, and it'll be Puig. So Gomez fly ball to right, 2 down. That'll bring up Ramirez.
Baseman number 16, Aramis Ramirez.
Aramis Ramirez walked, struck out, single to right, thrown out by Puig trying to make it a double, and then last time up fly to center. Ramirez batting .234, 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in. Foul back. And that's going to go into right center. Peterson, a diving backhand catch. So Ramirez losing an extra base hit on that fine diving catch by Jock Peterson. No runs, no hits, a man left, and we head for the bottom of the ninth, 7-1 Milwaukee. Leading the Dodgers 7-1. 7 runs, 12 hits for the Brew Crew, and no errors. For the Dodgers, 1 run, a double cashed in on a fly ball. Taylor Youngman is his name. He is 6'6", 215 pounds. He will be 26 the middle of December. He's from Temple, Texas, and went to school at the University of Texas, and he is a name and a pitcher to remember. He's had 12 ground ball outs, and he's just ready to make his 90th pitch to Van Slyke. 0-1. Youngman came in with a record of 3-1, all 3 victories on the road, and he's at it again. Foul back. Good fastball. He has now made 91 pitches. From 91 to 105, the opposition hitting .250. One and two. Down in the Milwaukee bullpen, Jonathan Broxton. Meanwhile, Rick Honeycutt showing Mike Bolsinger a different way to haul perhaps it looks like a change. All those fingers on the ball. Then if you turn it inward, you almost have a screwball. And another 92, and that takes care of Van Slyke. Six strikeouts for Youngman. Jock Peterson has struck out, walked, fly to center. The Giants are winning and would appear to be handily in front. Last we checked, it was 7-4 in favor of the Giants. Though it looks like the Dodgers will lose a game. It's 8-4 Giants over the Phillies in the 8th inning. Ball one. For Youngman, here he is in the 9th inning with 1 out. His longest start this year. Last time out against Cincinnati, he went 8 innings and allowed 4 hits and just 1 run. But that was in 6 1/3 innings. Ground ball to Jeanette, and the blockade takes care of Peterson. And the Dodgers now have 1 out left.
Second baseman is number 47, Howie Hendrick.
The Youngman gesturing to Aramis Ramirez. He wanted him to throw the old ball out of the inning. So Ramirez threw it to the dugout, and Youngman with a new ball working on Kendrick. And a strike. 49,081 on Juan Uribe night. And the Dodgers thoroughly stopped by Taylor Youngman. The offensive performance by Carlos Gomez. 1 ball and 1 strike. So Youngman will be 4-1. In that game at Cincinnati, total innings, he worked 8 innings. So tonight, trying to go 9. For complete games for a Milwaukee pitcher, his will be the first. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Two and two. Kendrick 1 for 3. Hit back to the box, single to center, grounded to second. And got him, and that does it. Youngman ties a ribbon on the package, striking out the 2 of the 3 batters. So that winds up giving him 7 strikeouts, and a brilliant job by the Pride of Texas, and a great job by a very happy Carlos Gomez, who had 5 RBIs. The outfield, well, Gerardo Parra had a single, double, and a home run, and Braun had a double in his 5 at-bats. 100 pitches turned in by Taylor Youngman, who is certainly our player of the game. Tomorrow it'll be Kyle Loesch and Brett Anderson. The Dodgers will take the field, apparently leading the Giants by 4.5. We'll talk to you then. Till then, from all of us to all of you, a very pleasant good evening, everybody.